Find me a dish more classic than roasted chicken. It's why world-famous chefs all say the same thing. When it's done right, there's nothing better. I'm talking juicy, flavorful meat with skin so delicious you won't stop eating it. And yeah, it usually does taste better in restaurants, but I'll show you the inside techniques on how to make it just as good. Starting with a very crucial step. Sound good? Let's cook. I'm going to be using a whole 3.5 to 4 pound roasting chicken. Now this is a typical size, and I was even able to find a few organic ones that were on sale. Score. The first thing I'm going to do is using some paper towels, I'm going to pat it dry very well on all sides and in between every little crack and crevice. Next is incredibly important, and that is seasoning the chicken, but not just for flavor, also to dry brine it, which I'll explain in a second. But first, generously season on all sides of the bird with coarse salt and freshly cracked pepper. You'll probably end up using about 3 to 4 teaspoons of salt and about 1 teaspoon of pepper. The cavity is equally important for seasoning. This will help ensure every bite is flavorful. At this stage, I'm going to transfer it over to a rack over a sheet tray, and a plate or a platter will also work. And yes, as always for me, parchment paper underneath. It's a pro kitchen thing that has no other benefits other than working clean. And don't worry, yes, I'm absolutely going to trust this, but what I want to do now is leave everything open, the wings and the legs. It's going in the fridge uncovered for as little as 4 hours and up to 24 hours. The longer, the better. During this process, the salt will draw out some moisture, then it will seep back into the meat, drying out the outside skin, which of course will help us get beautifully brown, crispy skin and crazy juicy meat. What's better? So when you're ready to cook this, start off by preheating the oven to 425 degrees F, fan off, and while it heats up, we're going to take out the chicken and let it sit at room temp to help take the chill off of it. You should notice how dried out the skin is. Perfect. Such a great technique that you can absolutely pull off and at home with ease. Now to push in and get a bit more flavor, I'm going to stuff the inside cavity with 1 shallot that I peeled and sliced in half, 4 to 5 garlic cloves, 2 sprigs of fresh rosemary, and about 6 to 8 sprigs of fresh thyme. This will help to bring a lot of aromatics and flavors into the bird. At this point, using a toothpick or a skewer, I'm going to make about 15 to 20 little pierces or punctures, only going as deep as breaking through the skin in each part, so the thighs, drums, breasts, wings, and even the backside around the oysters. This does not need to be perfect at all, but what this simple technique does is help to release some of the moisture and render some of the chicken fat to get that skin even crispier. And don't worry, you won't lose any juiciness in the chicken with this. I'll even show you after what it looks like and feels like if you don't do this. But first, let's trust this chicken. On that same rack, fold the wings underneath to help stabilize the bird from rocking back and forth and keep it upright. Next, take about a 3-foot or so piece of butcher's twine and then center it over the drums. Wrap around the drums and cross the twine to make a figure 8 ending over top of the drums, and then pull it tight to bring them together. Next, go along the sides of the chicken and bring the twine to the top. At this point, flip it over, and then what we're going to do is tie a knot right around the neck bone, and I usually do an extra loop to help that knot stay secure. Then, just over the side of that neck bone lump, I tie another knot to secure everything in place with a nice little pretty bow, or you can double knot it, up to you. Remove any extra string and you're good to go. Flip it back over so that it's breast side up. And really what this does is it helps keep everything in nice and tight. 1, to make it cook more evenly, and 2, it will look way more beautiful. If you don't, the legs will sort of cook outwards with the thighs and the wings, and it's gonna look a little sloppy. Well, this is how chefs do it, and I promise you, you can do it too. I'm taking the chicken over to the cooktop where I've got a large carbon steel pan. A cast iron pan also works well, and you can use a medium size, but I want a bigger one for later, and I'll explain why. But first, add in about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, or just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, then crank that heat up to hot. Once that oil starts smoking, I know I'm good to start searing. So place the chicken backside down into the pan, and as soon as it's in there, I turn the heat down slightly to medium-high. It's really important to be in control of how much heat is coming out of that burner so that nothing burns. I'm going to let it stand for about 2 minutes or so, And then I'm going to give it a little check, and yep, it's just enough light browning for me. So I'm going to turn it using a thick wooden spoon and hold it upright on the side for that same amount of time, about 2 minutes. And then I'll repeat the process on the other side for the same amount of time. Sometimes you've got to be right there touching and moving things as they cook for the best results. And this is one of them, but I promise you, you've got this. Last up, flip it so that it's breast side down. Now as I do that, I turn the heat down to low. Don't worry, the pan will stay plenty hot. Now is when I like to treat this kind of like a steak. Go ahead and add in 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter and start basting the chicken with a spoon. Obviously simple, but this little technique will help add incredible fat and flavor, as well as help making this the most golden brown chicken ever. After about 2 to 3 minutes, flip it over and baste the top for about 1 to 2 more minutes. The timing here doesn't need to be perfect. Remember, the heat's on low. At this stage, I like to drain off as much fat as possible because I want to reduce any risk of that butter burning while in the oven. You can feel free to spoon it out as well, whatever's easiest for you. Now before it goes into the oven, be sure to add a thermometer to the deepest part of the breast. This is how you remove any guesswork to knowing when your chicken's done. I'll drop a link to my favorite temp gauge in the descriptions. It's going in the oven in the same pan on a lower third rack at 425 degrees F for about 45 to 50 minutes or until that thermometer reads 155 F. And this was really how we're taught in culinary school. We roast the piece of meat until golden brown and we finish it to temperature in the oven. This is long before reverse sear was ever even a thing, and you don't obviously want to do that with chicken anyways because you need it to cook through. This is the same techniques that classically trained chefs like Kenji Lopez and the famous Jacques Pepin still use to this day. So once it's finished up, let's pull it out, and yes, this is what you're looking for. Beautifully golden brown, perfect shape, and right at 155 internally, which will crank up more to 165 in the breast and 175 in the thighs as it rests. And speaking of, I'm going to take it out of the pan and place it on a new rack over a sheet tray and let it rest for about 10 to 12 minutes or so, and just listen to that crispiness. Going to be ridiculous. And to come back to an earlier point I made, here's what happens when you don't poke holes in the skin. It crinkles up and it becomes saturated and turns soft. Sorry, but this is not the way.
You chose poorly.
Exactly, Lord de Beauvairs. And we are so close to plating up and eating, so don't go anywhere because first, I'm going to show you how to easily carve up this chicken. First and foremost, remove the thermometer and trim away the butcher's twine so no one eats roe, right? Next up, lay it breast side up on a cutting board and using a chef knife or a boning knife, slice between the leg and breast and expose that thigh bone, then simply cut in between. For the breast, I locate the sternum and slice down to the left of it and carve the meat staying as close to the bone as possible until you get to the wing bone. Pop it back to expose it and cut through. Repeat this exact same process on the other side. It's super easy, you've got this. Now to present everything, starting with the wings, remove the tip and slice between the drumette and the flat. Then for the legs, slice between the thigh and drum to expose the bone and again cut in between that joint. And of course, the breasts. Slice them about a ½ inch thick, ensuring the skin stays in place. That's gold, my friends. And for that leftover carcass, you can store it later and use it sort of like you would in a remoulade or second washing of bones for stock. While it may not be super intense in flavor, it's still plenty delicious and it's a perfect way to use this up. Alright, here's the deal. We're taking things up a notch on YouTube and rolling out channel membership for just $4.99. What do you get? Well, you'll get the inside scoop, deeper dive into my videos, extra chef tips and tricks, bonus recipes to round out the dishes I make, and early access to videos before anyone else. I may even drop some exclusive member-only videos. And this is just such a huge way to help support the channel, and I'm just so appreciative. But for this video specifically, you'll see how to make an insanely delicious chicken gravy to go with that roasted chicken, plus 2 incredible side dishes that tie the whole meal together. All you've got to do is hit that join button right next to subscribe, and you'll unlock everything in just a few quick steps. I cannot thank you enough, and I'll see you on those videos.